Where are the most dangerous places for Americans to travel? The U.S. State Department has a color-coded advisory system about how dangerous countries are for Americans to visit. The highest level, don't travel there for any reason, are Venezuela, Haiti, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, North Korea, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Mali, and Burkina Faso. I'll never forget the time I, an American, was in Tanzania and trying to arrange passage to Madagascar via a shipping vessel. I met someone who knew someone who knew someone who could get me on the ship for very cheap. Eventually, the captain told me he would grant me passage, but warned me that if pirates boarded their ship, they would likely take me with them and hold me hostage. I didn't fully trust that the crew/captain wouldn't sell me to the pirates, haha, so I never did make that trip. Amsterdam was a nice alternative though. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, DRC, Yemen. Mogadishu, Somalia. For more info, and for an entertaining read, check out WikiTravel's page on the matter, wikitravel.org/n/Mogadishu. Venezuela. Seriously, don't come if you're American. And if you're white, from any other country, only come if you know someone here you can trust who will accompany at all times and who has the power to move some influences if you ever get randomly targeted by the military or police. If you get targeted by criminals, then there's no way to hell. Our regime did a really good job at spreading powerful hate speech against Yankees and anyone who looks gringo, plus American citizens are used as hostages for exchange of political prisoners. Military will say you are spies, are trafficking or are a terrorist. I most add though most people will actually be happy to have you here and will be super kind to you. We also have a country with beautiful nature, culture, and delicious food. We'd love to have you here, but we'd rather not invite you to come until it's absolutely safe. Mogadishu is number 1. From what I read, if you travel there, it is a guarantee that you will be dead within hours. Probably that island off the southern coast of India where that uncontacted, indigenous tribe kills everyone that tries to come ashore. Venezuela. As soon as you leave the airport you can be intercepted by criminals and even corrupt police to rob you or worse. I have a very American answer for you. Depends on what you do for a living. Area in Somalia. The core of a neutron star. America. Statistically speaking, most Americans _die in America/s. Parts of Mexico are scary as hell. I used to live in a border town where Americans went across the line for medical and dental care. It's reached the point with the drug cartel violence and kidnapping that these offices have armed security meet the Americans at the border crossing, escort them to and from the doctor office back to the border. This weekend, Philadelphia if you are wearing a Chiefs jersey. U.S. State Department makes a list of such places. There are currently 19 countries which the U.S. government advises you don't travel. They are Belarus, Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Russia, Burma/Myanmar, Libya, North Korea, South Sudan, Sudan, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Haiti, Somalia, Iraq, Venezuela, Mali, Iran. Added an R. I4. According to the State Department, Iran, Mali, Venezuela, Iraq, Somalia, Haiti, Ukraine, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Sudan, South Sudan, North Korea, Libya, Burma, Russia, Belarus, Burkina Faso, and Central African Republic are all listed as do not travel. travel.state.gov/content/travel/traveladvisories/traveladvisories.html. Been to 97 countries. The vast majority of people all over the world are the same. Decent people trying to make a living and hoping things will be better for their kids. Africa, Asia, Middle East, all the same. Governments are usually the problem, not the people. We're not too popular in the Middle East, North Korea, and Russia. I wouldn't recommend Liberia. Schools. Walmart at 3 a.m. If you're a woman, definitely do not go to India or Pakistan alone. Americans, everyone, if you're not familiar with East Oakland, just don't go. You park in the wrong spot or have too nice of a car, or don't know the etiquette, just so many ways you could accidentally get shot. Anywhere downwind of East Palestine, Ohio. North Korea. Generally, it's 5 blocks in the wrong direction. I think that other factors can be important, such as race, gender, SUAL orientation, religion, etc. The core of Reactor 4 at Chernobyl is probably not a great time. I took Russian language for a semester in college in the mid-80s. I remember our professor saying, at that time, Americans were very safe in Russia. If the local criminals messed with a foreigner, the KGB would get involved and they didn't want that smoke. I was dumbfounded when my Spanish teacher said that Iran, Tehran specifically, was a popular destination for Spanish tourists. But he was like, yeah, you can't go there, white, American. Anywhere they film the first 48. Watch out for Dookie Shoes Lil Stank. LOL wow the trolls hit hard with Chicago, and no explanations. Yeah, don't go out alone in gang areas at 2 a.m. That's true for hundreds of cities. The image of Chicago as some apocalyptic wasteland of gun runners is silly. Conservatives need to fearmonger. My most upvoted comment ever, reddit.com/r/askreddit/comments/yf93yg/comment/iu2u2lu, is about how batshit insane the State Department page is for Somalia. I love the before you travel tips about designating a hostage negotiator and leaving DNA samples so your body can be identified. Basically a really professional way of saying F around and find out. Edit, everyone who commented, oh yeah I remember that comment, I sincerely love every one of you. Reading those feels like running into an old friend. See you next time. There's an Ask Reddit about State Department travel advisories for Somalia. Purple heart. Here's the map, travelmaps.state.gov/tsg map. Last time I checked Burkina Faso was considered fairly safe and stable. I wonder what's happened there since then. Edit, Islamic terrorism in the last decade, and then in January 2022 a military coup, which was quickly overturned, and then another military coup in September. Too bad, I wanted to visit Burkina Faso at some point in the future. This is a little wild to me because I've traveled to Haiti. Obs it wasn't great to begin with, but it's gotten significantly more unstable in the last 10 years. I was a little nervous going then, can't imagine going to a country that was at the top for danger now. I spent 7 weeks last spring doing aid work in Ukraine. It's dangerous, but it's not on the level of some of those other countries. Also, I would rather be in Ukraine than Russia. At least the Ukrainians liked me being there and weren't trying to arrest me for spying or whatever else they want to imagine. Mali has the same warning too. First thing it says is draft a will. It's the hostage negotiator that gets to me. Not to mention the fact that the US has an embassy in Somalia that has evacuated its consular staff, so you need to go to Nairobi to access help with replacing your lost passport. I also like the part of this that I have italicized below. Asterisk share important documents, login information, and points of contact with loved ones so that they can manage your affairs if you are unable to return as planned to the United States. Return as planned. In a timely fashion. I may have committed some light treason. I've been in corporate long enough to realize that those pages, although serious, were really just created to say how do we tell the person who wants to travel there they're a dumb F in 40 different ways and make them realize they're going to die. Asterisk. You see, Americans don't like being told what to do, so they can't just say we're banning you for your own good, instead they will write a sentence that ends in asterisk, funeral wishes, etc. Asterisk to make it clear that anyone who travels there is a dumb asshole and this is their way of saying we told you so. Mail has been taken over by Wagner. That's a good point. It's funny to read the difference with advices from other governments. US is by far the most dramatic but might be more effective. The American government does ban citizens from traveling to North Korea. You have to ask the Department of State for permission and get a special passport. You have to have a reason for going and tourism won't cut it. It's a relatively recent ban put in place after the Auto Kid IIRC. I believe North Korea is also the only country the US government bans us from visiting. I wonder why some other countries haven't been banned. Some are more dangerous than North Korea at this point. Australia is super blunt LMAO. If, despite our advice, you decide to travel. And if you're in X despite our advice repeated multiple times for each point. Understand that you may die. If you die overseas in a do not travel destination, it's unlikely your travel insurance will cover you. Your family will be left to deal with your death. This includes organizing your funeral and bringing back your remains. Somalia isn't safe. It doesn't have an effective police force. If you're in Yemen despite our advice, leave now. Strongest warning yet. Australia doesn't negotiate with terrorists. If you're kidnapped. That Australia doesn't negotiate with terrorists is a hard line though. Australia also bans people from going to certain areas at all, like Raksa when it was under ISIL control. Of course there's not much they can do once you've left the country, although the government is refusing to repatriate some women and children who accompanied their husbands there, husbands pretty much all dead. ISIL fighters did not have a long life expectancy. And we were all banned from leaving the country for 2 years during COVID. The travel advisory for every country was do not travel, putting NZ under the same color-coded red as South Sudan. When normally the greatest threat you face in NZ is when your friend says it's been night and you offer to be helpful and take the rubbish out, when it actually means their dickhead brother-in-law Ben, who audibly farts and bursts out laughing during tense bits of the movie, is coming over. The US doesn't either, is what I was told. When I was a diplomatic spouse in Colombia, I was instructed to strictly follow all safety protocols so I wouldn't get kidnapped by the FARC. If I was kidnapped, and held for ransom, the government would not pay the ransom. That was negotiating with terrorists. A team might be sent to rescue me, but that's actually a crappy outcome, because the time you're most likely to die in a kidnapping is during an attempted rescue. Moot point y'all, I didn't get kidnapped lol. EDA, understandably, some of y'all are getting stuck on we don't negotiate with terrorists. The point is that United States wasn't going to negotiate with terrorists for me. I was the spouse of a low-level functionary, nobody was going to pay a ransom, getting me back was not going to be a biggest deal. I always think of the Bin Laden movie or whatever it was. We negotiate with terrorists every single day. We send literal pallets full of money. It just makes sense. And GT, the US doesn't either. When I was a diplomatic spouse in Colombia, I was told to strictly follow all safety protocols so I wouldn't get kidnapped by the FARC. Shows the importance of managing communication in relationships. Even the FARC doesn't want the undiplomatic spouses. The same reason that rescinding an individual's passport shouldn't be taken lightly. Freedom of movement, including the freedom to go abroad, is generally considered a human right. I wonder how that ban works in practice, anyways, considering that the only way to get to NK is through China. Did the US convince the Chinese government to cooperate in implementing this ban? Soundtrack must have been amazing. Mercenary outfits like Wagner aren't big enough to take over a whole country. Wagner is operating in Mali, but they're just assisting whatever local militia or government faction Russia is aligned with. It's not a full-scale occupation. They don't have the money or manpower for that. If your family needs ransom money, remember, there's always money in the banana stand. Favorite. Discuss a plan with loved ones regarding care/custody of children, pets, property, belongings, non-liquid assets, collections, artwork, etc., funeral wishes, etc. And GT, funeral wishes. LOL. And GT, if you are unable to return as planned to the United States. I'm reading that as not alive. Or not in one piece. Like hand first and some other small packages. Maybe I've just grown overly cautious in my old age though. There are certain things that he needs that he can't get from his children. If you're going to say pride, Michael, you're wrong. He is proud of his children. Wasn't gonna say, pride. Yeah, it's a bummer when you plan on returning as carry-on luggage but they make you check yourself after you have wrecked yourself. Why do I need exercise increased caution in Antarctica? Gangs of roving penguins.